Hello, I'm Bridget, the author of Sonny Preyer, and this is the face that broke BL for me. I must warn you, I'll be talking about the character Aju from Word of Honor, the actor who played him, Zhang Zhehan, BL or Boys Love, Yaoi, and all manner of gay content, and mentioning my novel because all of this is what I love. As a writer, I specialize in the appeal of androgynous men. What happened to him proves that the androgynous quality is powerful, natural, and upsetting to people who feel threatened by it. Why do they feel threatened? Because they define it as something bad when it isn't. What happened to Zhang Zhehan was profoundly the reason why I write what I write. I want to talk about it. I've put off talking about this, but this is really the whole point of my joy as a writer, which is to defend sensitive, intimate aspects of ourselves that we've been taught are shameful or disgraceful by writing about it. I will not be talking about the infamous picture because there's a deeper, more credible story here. I will do my best to keep things positive as I sidestep around some very negative aspects. If you saw a horrific car accident that left you shaken for months, you have a right to talk about it. It's part of your healing process to talk about it, though the accident didn't involve you personally. That's how I feel about what happened to him. I literally wrote a book ages ago about a young man so beautiful that it upsets the balance of his world. So imagine my bafflement to see fiction becoming real life as an entire global world power turned its attention to suppressing the face that gave us this. Lots of people are suppressed, I know, but to look like this, like exactly the thing that inspires me to write? I was assigned to write about Zhang Zhehan. I was born to write this article and post it here, or comment as it were. At first I struggled with uploading this because I know he's been through enough and a lot of people fear that the wrong kind of mentioning of him could cause another backlash in his life. I pray to God to surround him with love and that won't happen. But then I came to the realization that every decision is either about being true to yourself or giving into the perceptions and fears of others. He himself is fighting very hard to be true to himself. Everyone watching this has to decide every day if they're going to do something that makes them happy or continue to sacrifice their happiness to people and circumstances that don't even know who they are, what they're about, what they're feeling, or what their life is telling them. In short, we all have to step out on faith for what really matters to us. We have to stay focused on the positive because, yeah, life is full of things we don't want, but it's our selective attention and focus that allows us to stop and think about treating each other with love and respect. People have to be free to be themselves. Controlling them is not love, it's fear. You can't let the opinions and actions of others stop you from expressing yourself as Zhang Zhehan knows best. It's so good to see that he is confident enough to return and do exactly that. I've decided to present my take on BL and talk about his contribution to it. I ask that those of you who really love him and may disagree with what I'm saying simply turn the video off and don't let my opinions get to you. I am selfishly articulating what I feel because that's what I need to do for me, for BL fans, and for Zhang Zhehan. Stay calm and civil. If you're a fan, you will continue to love him and treat him with respect, no matter what I say. If you're not, that has nothing to do with me, and I won't even talk about it. To be clear, the actor Zhang Zhehan is a very masculine and wholesome young man, and I am not calling him as a person anything else. I'm only saying that his gifts when portraying his character Aju in Word of Honor was the perfect representation of the kind of androgyny that I write about. It gives me the opportunity to talk about a beloved subject matter, which is androgyny in BL. Can we just admit that this is androgynous and not simply BL? I feel like we need to stop and do that. Masculine and feminine characteristics combined into one? I'm not blind. I feel like people are denying that as if this image is running over with testosterone and he isn't one of the most elegant visions I've ever seen in my life. Before I'm accused of cultural ignorance or racism, I've seen a lot of wuxia actors wearing makeup and robes who are quite manly and they don't come off as being this extraordinarily beautiful. And I know that the real person, Zhang Zhehan, is very masculine and athletic and nothing like this character. I just want everyone to admit that this image is on topic. This portrayal of Aju and Wen Kexing are very androgynous. If I still come off as culturally dense or cause offense, I do not mean to. And I ask you to be the better person and forgive me. I am out of my depths to some degree, and I am relying on your graciousness to give me a chance. I don't know the real Zhang Zhehan. I'm not affiliated with him in any way, nor do I wish to offend him or his fans. His talents simply make him the perfect representation of BL for me. His co-star, Simon Gong-jun, who played Wen Kexing, is also a favorite. I know that China has put a ban on BL, which is ironic because their writing and production values are outstanding in historical and fantasy dramas, and they could totally lead the industry in global acceptance and a whole new renaissance of women writing, producing, and filming what other women and some men want to see in terms of BL content. I'm not here to judge anyone. I'm here to uplift BL, Zhang Zhehan, and tell you about how BL relates to my writing. Zhang Zhehan is one of the magnificent stars of Word of Honor, a 2020 Chinese BL drama. His role was so effective that appreciation of his portrayal of Aju only continues to grow. He's become a hero to this American writer because his influence proves my point about androgyny and the inherent power of it. People who don't understand it perpetuate fear that denies the full power and equality of all sexes, genders, and orientations. First, androgyny is the highest form of human beauty to me because it is a true representation of equality in genders, a balance. In a world where men and women's attitudes flex against each other and where men wouldn't be caught dead in a dress and women still have to fight for equal rights, a person who exhibits the positive qualities of both or all sexes is a perfectly balanced person to me. I know that's fiction, but take that person and put him in a story where he has to face psychological, sexual stresses that come with being someone so different, and that's what I write. I give my male characters such beauty that it serves as a mask and emotional armor for people who need it to journey through their personal pain, like me. I think BL characters help some female readers look at things they wouldn't want to look at if it was just a girl or a woman playing the role because of the devaluing of the female experience in a masculine dominant society. In other words, women whose self-esteem has been shaped by the perception that they're not as valuable as males. Who better than a so-called valuable male to reflect her worth back to her and lead her by the hand through experiences that only a female can relate to? Hence, the ideal BL character is born. I'm not saying this about all women, just a certain type. Everyone knew that Zhang Zhehan was handsome and talented, but when his manly makeup washed off in that exhilarating underwater scene, the delight and shock of seeing how impacting his physical features were hit fans in a different way. When he got out of the water, he was even more stunning. The effect never wore off. Of course, there were many elements to the story, the acting, the script, and the other characters that supported his role, but the overall performance reverberated in our souls, catapulting the show's success out of orbit. However, this brought the attention of negative viewers and criticism as politics began to suppress BL content. Zhang Zhehan suffered because his role was so successful and reached the hearts of so many, and not all of them had his best interest in mind. The more popular something is, the more it is exposed to criticism. That can be said about anything. To some, his portrayal was considered a national weakness, to have so many people under the influence of one who does not fit the normal standard of what and how a proper man is supposed to appear and behave. This reflects the ban on BL content as a political embarrassment. Real life caught up in fiction, and people began to manipulate the circumstances against him. I'm glossing over the details on purpose because I want to stay positive, but I also want to show why I have to stand up for BL and lend my voice to its growth and survival. His character, Aju, has the perfect qualities that fans of BL value the most: strength of character and an appearance like silk. Smooth and flawless in all the right places. He literally looked the way some women want to look. So many female fans were able to identify with his character in spite of his being male. That's what many BL fans want. Notice I didn't say everyone. There are many females who want to be as intriguing, fascinating, and as beautiful as the men they are attracted to. In terms of fantasy, it just makes any notion of a romantic relationship better. We all know that looks don't matter when it comes to love, but BL is a fantasy that we're willing to pay good money for, so we get to have what we like. BL fans love beauty. Some would say it's quite a girly thing. It's a human, emotional thing. It soothes our soul. Many of us turn to BL because we want masculinity packaged in a certain way, and we fantasize about it. Don't confuse this with real life. We put ourselves in the roles. We're almost like gay men in the bodies of straight women, only we love being women. We just love the idea of deep emotional and physical involvement with males, and we get to bring our own sense of aesthetics into play. Here in America, we can't generally get that from our publishing industry or even Hollywood because they don't take it seriously. They don't even know that it's a thing for us, that we will pay good money for it. That's like a husband that's never been able to give his wife an orgasm. She loves him, but she's got to get what does it for her: BL content. Oh, sure, America comes up with shows with gay content, but those shows are not written with fulfilling the interests of BL fans in mind. The product can come out completely unrelatable. If cinematic fans can get what they want in terms of the traditional macho hero and seductive starlet, or even the more modern tough female in hand-to-hand combat while wearing something skimpy, why shouldn't we get our protagonist exactly the way we want him? Beautiful. This is what makes BL so intensely necessary and popular. The fact that men are raised to a level of sensitivity and emotional intelligence and still allowed to be masculine badasses when we want them to be, as well as divinely boyish or angelic when we want to see that side, or a combination of it all together. This video does not attempt to explain what happened in Zhang Zhehan's personal life. I don't know what happened, I wasn't there, I don't know him. The details are none of my business, and I'm sure he's been through enough. What is my business is my compassion for him and bearing witness to the attitudes that tossed his career like a tidal wave after giving the world au jus and then taking him away. It's like the heavens opened up briefly, then said, "Oops, didn't mean to give them that much joy," then yanked him back up. That traumatized me, and that is my business. I hope by discussing this that I can get people to see that BL is not a bad thing. Try to understand where it's coming from and what it's really about. Its message is about the changing needs of humanity itself. Women want something different, and BL has more to do with wanting our values taken as seriously as the world takes masculine values. I will explain. To me, Zhang Zhehan, to put it bluntly, was punished for being an extraordinarily beautiful man, for possessing the ability to sway millions of fans and massive audiences around the world with the androgynous appearance of his character Aju. You felt it when he came on screen. You just knew this changes everything. I'm not saying there aren't other actors who were just as beautiful as he was. There was just something different about this script, because the BL aspect gave us so much in terms of bypassing censorship. That freedom was so delicious. Aju's character, his features, flies in the face of traditional concepts of masculinity no matter what country you're from, and it's largely incomprehensible to people who only recognize two genders on this planet and value the male over the female. I'm talking about the US as much as I'm talking about anywhere else in the world. Now, as I go further, I must clarify what I mean when I say BL. With all due respect to Asian cultures, and particularly the BL industries and genres of Japan, China, Korea, and other cultures, when I say BL, I'm talking about the male-to-male attraction that women fantasize about, and not necessarily the specifics of genre that belong to each culture. There's no way that the artistry of graphic books, donguas, mangas, and the skills within each culture can be lumped into one generalization, and I'm not trying to do that, so please don't be offended. I'm just trying to simplify the topic of male-to-male fantasies within this spectrum for this conversation. In America, it's been called by many names, from slash of fan fiction to MM, and of course the Japanese-inspired boys' love. But no matter what you call it or what style you prefer it in, the essence is the same. It's fiction that allows a male protagonist to have a would-be love interest that could also be a male, as it is fabricated mainly by female writers. Sadly, America does not have the boys' love equivalent or the appreciation for aesthetics that make its authenticity so appealing. Women all over the world fantasize in a healthy way about men having relationships with other men, yet not every culture has the platform where such relationships are acknowledged as valid entertainment or taken seriously. I say healthy because it is the imagination's job to fill in the blanks when it comes to the unknown. A woman knows about her body intimately. She knows about her feelings. She knows about having a relationship with a man, or all that she cares to know. What's a mystery to her is what two men bring to the encounter, psychologically, emotionally, and physically, especially since men have often been depicted as these strong willed, unemotional, logical creatures that can handle anything. She knows they cry and they hurt and they're beautiful. She just doesn't get to see the things they hide in their efforts to be indomitable and strong all the time. They signify a sexual mystery to many women who love men, and it's only natural that women use their imaginative powers to intensify their pleasure and satisfy their curiosity, which is why BL, in all of its international and generational forms, has always been an alluring topic to women whose countries don't even acknowledge BL as a valid form of entertainment and a billion-dollar industry. I say billion dollar because if American publishers truly understood how much women were willing to pay for BL content and provide it alongside all the het romances, there would truly be a unifying explosion of demand and supply the world over. Because there's no end to what people can dream, film industries, animation studios, writers, musicians, all of that would stay on the leading edge of the best transformative material, creating an ecosystem that could sustain the creative needs of all of us. Notice that I'm trying to be very selective about how I use the word gay. That's because, one, I appreciate the fact that LGBT issues are real life issues and have nothing to do with most non-gay women's fantasies. I do this out of respect for gay people who don't want their lives trivialized by others who can't relate to their challenges. And two, I try not to use the term gay and straight in my fiction too much because I accept it as something completely natural that doesn't need to be defended or differentiated as a way of justifying or struggling to validate itself. LGBT sexuality is respected and embraced without having to march for equality in my fictional worlds. But I can do that because, as I point out, BL are mostly women's fantasies, and not all fantasies are reflective of the real worlds of gay people. They're not supposed to be, or at least they don't have to be. LGBT communities still have to fight for fairness and their rights, and I support them and trust that my interests don't infringe on their freedoms. Also, I know that there could be no BL or enjoyment of such fantasies publicly without the plights of gay people everywhere, so thank you. That's nothing against people who still need to use the word gay in their fiction. It just makes writing for me and watching the characters more interesting when the sexual possibilities are not so strictly defined and predictable. And three, I substitute the word BL for gay because I can conceive of a story where the two males do not consider themselves to be gay, and yet they must still deal with attraction dynamics, regardless of their orientation. Imagine two straight guys who are put into a situation where they have to kiss convincingly, whether they are comfortable with it or not. Writers come up with wild card scenarios all the time, just looking for interesting stories. So those are the things that a fantasy writer grapples with quite happily. A beautiful master novelist, the late and present Anne Rice, once gave the advice, "Go where the pain is. That's where your story is." I took her to heart, and I explore where humanity needs healing the most. It's where I need healing the most in terms of being at peace with my gender and no limits placed upon it. Or in other words, the outward appearance of somebody's body shouldn't dictate what they can or can't be. This also encompasses racism, sexism, and delves into a lot of social shame and bullying that my work attempts to cleanse through creating modern myths and stories that journey through the psychological need to play with social, sexual boundaries through the mystery, suspense, and fascination of men caught in intense relationships with one another.
Why? Why me?
Here's where it gets back to Zhang Zhehan. Yes, that smile activated me, and I won't go back to a world where we pretend this isn't BL. Female fantasies at their most powerful, as only a woman and some men can feel them. I love this specific image because it shows Aju's masculinity upgraded to androgyny that is strong and equalizes the sexes. In other words, he's pretty. You're damn right he is. You might think that means nothing and that BL fans are just shallow, but beauty actually has a basis in human psychology and survival. Even a baby will scream, terrified of an ugly monster, and try to get away, and it will smile at a soft, fluffy, stuffed toy that is appealing. We are biologically programmed to prefer beauty in nature over things that are difficult to look at, like trash, smells, desecration, a monster chasing you, etc. It's said that music calms the savage beast, and in the same way, beauty calms the hearts of stressed, anxious people. This is partly why BL appeals to us, and we don't always get the same high from watching other types of shows. There's nothing shallow about mental health in a stressed out society. Still think I'm being shallow? Imagine Zhang Zhehan in a suit. He looks great in a suit. He's also pretty in a suit, as well as handsome. But these flowing robes put him over the top for many of us because they are not a suit. Do you even realize what your subconscious mind does with knowing that? It gives you fireworks in your brain and body in the form of heightened bliss. While the ego is saying, nothing to see here, just another man in a robe, your subconscious is telling you that these robes are the opposite of a suit. They are the opposite of a certain way of thinking. It sees something that is ultra flowing and sheer, something only worn in fairy tales and mythology, something saved and set aside for our highest ideals. And I dare say, at least to Westerners, feminine energy goddess type enchantment given to a male. And not just any male, a male that is as strong in body and purpose as he is beautiful. The term princess and Leopold came from fans in his native land, so it isn't just me. Because fans inundated Aju's character with the word princess, a symbol of female power and grace, that word was used against the actor and is now seen as derogatory when it began as a playful acknowledgement of the charm he extended to his fans in his portrayal of Aju. His appearance literally began to make so many women feel better about themselves by uplifting their spirits, their morale, their compassion and empathy, and their empowerment. That's healing, and there's nothing shallow about that. Typically, beauty has always been demanded of women, so don't hold it against women for using beauty to make themselves feel better. BL uses it in a way that has a male giving it back to women. Again, that's not a shallow thing. That's a mental health thing, as it achieves emotional balance, gender balance between what's desired, what's expected, and what's given. It's very satisfying and stays safely within the realm of fantasy where any experience can be had. Women cannot get this from traditionally straight or mainstream male-dominated programs. So we have to write it for one another. It's very satisfying and stays safely within the realm of fantasy where any experience can be had. This way, real emotions are freed in a way that makes it impossible for anyone to be hurt. I'm not speaking of people who are mentally unstable. I'm speaking of people who know the difference between reality and fantasy and would never want to infringe upon another person's rights and happiness. Zhang Zhehan is a strong, athletic man. His willingness to show such beauty shows women their equality and importance in a world where we aren't always encouraged to feel as valuable as men, and we don't necessarily enjoy the beauty standards expected of us. To see him going through it is to extend compassion to the part of ourselves that go through it. This is why I write such dramatic stories that combine the male and female into one character. For example, my novel Sonny Preyer, A Fairy Tale of a Different Kind, which spans 3 books and is ongoing. That's how influential he has been on a global level. That's why some have feared his influence and caused his suffering. Because of such people, words like princess can be used against him when it's just an innocent word and doesn't change his masculinity one little bit. Yet fear and hatred of things that are not 100% male, read female, have come out of this, causing even females to push against using the word princess in referencing the most iconic image of beauty and strength and all things soft and lovely that evokes our most powerful BL emotions, such as this image. Women have been turned against that word and so against ourselves by people who would use it to hurt him because the word represents our value of the female self. Some see this as an insult to men, but how can it be an insult by giving him a name that represents the royalty within me? If anything, I'm honoring him. Zhang Zhehan makes us love ourselves. Forget gender. He makes us love our souls when we feel love for him. Yes, it's ridiculous to insist that a man is a woman, but when your spirit is so happy and overjoyed in playing, it's perfectly okay to adorn him in that word. It's just play. No one is insisting. Those fans were just playing the way girls play when they get really happy. He's so attractive he makes females celebrate themselves and crown him with one of their highest honors. They bestow their love in the word princess, while others sabotage him for it, and then fans are blamed and turn against one another. Scientifically, no human being is 100% male or female at a chromosome level. Biologically, we all have about 1% of the opposite within us. Humans simply create prejudices and preferences around it and bully one another when we would be better off letting everyone enjoy being what they want. So I will not let anyone convince me that calling a handsome man a princess is a bad thing. Based on the political climate of his native land, this is not a good time to do it, but is it bad? Absolutely not. Zhang Zhehan has suffered abusers who have traumatized him and convinced him that it's a bad thing to be a man who is beautiful. My heart goes out to him, but I'm not going to be convinced that his androgynous beauty is wrong. That's another form of sexism, homophobia, and inverted hatred of females by devaluing their essence when it's so obviously present in his elegant BL portrayal of Aju. I respect him and am not trying to get anyone to call him something that could harm him in his country. I'm simply observing the amazing images that have gotten us to this point and analyzing them out loud. BL lovers deserve to be able to explore the whole topic because Zhang Zhehan's face represents BL so well. And after all, there was a time when he felt safe playing the role. His victimization has caused that to change. It didn't suddenly become bad. People made him feel bad. So I have to lend my voice to the hope that he and all of his fans will heal from this and feel better about the topic because it's supremely important that people be allowed to look however they look, whether they fit anyone's idea of right and wrong. Nobody has the right to tell another person how they should look. Women find BL so interesting and comforting for a reason. That's because they don't find the same level of therapy in other art forms. They need to be soothed from what they go through, and men in BL are often masking female concerns because they're written by females. No matter how warrior-like, combat-driven, or aggressive some BLs are, the relationship aspects are driven by the sensibilities of what a woman finds charming, cute, challenging, romantic, or sexy. So Zhang Zhehan has done a great service to fans. His work cannot be undone. Millions have already let it into their hearts. He's woken many of us up to what we want in a great book or novel, and his influence is surely overturning the structure of modern media as surely as you're listening to this. In fact, this video is proof. I've resisted showcasing my novel. It's easy to put it on the web, but when given the opportunity to speak about it, I clammed up and held back, knowing that the average person may not be ready for what I write. I stayed away from mainstream publishers because I didn't trust them to respect my material. That's my own inner reflection, not theirs. I kept silent because of lingering shame within me. So how amazing that this young man, Zhang Zhehan, representing my very passion for BL, would be the one to undergo an attack and criticism and shame on a scale so epic and global that it brings me to my knees, and would be the one to inspire my voice through his hardship and help me to speak my own truth. As far as I'm concerned, his healthy, natural optimism and energy is a light sent to stimulate everyone who can tune into him to their happiest living experience. That's what his smile broadcasts. Its message is that everyone has this light. Everyone's smile and joy can flow to the rest of the world like millions of candles that ignite from a single one. Everyone has that power. His spirit reflects people's self-worth back at them, which is why people who love him the most find him so beautiful. My theory is that they're the ones who have pain that he specializes in healing on a subconscious level. So this is the perfect time to hold up my work for anyone who might be interested. Like the characters we love, Zhang Zhehan's real life is weathering storms of opposition that many of his fans would find impossible to face, which is why we use the faces of our beloved BL characters to navigate through feelings that we could not easily face without those beautiful, fascinating masks of perfection that trick us into feeling love. As long as we can feel love and not give in to our lesser emotions, we can balance ourselves through our daily challenges. As long as he is wearing the mask that appeals to us so much, we can allow ourselves to be guided through our feelings. Now I'm speaking up about my novels because I can see through his treatment that this is my world too, and the topic is important enough for me to address through my creativity, through my fiction, and through my channel. If I can help build respect for people who are criticized for not being manly enough or feminine enough through my books, then now's the time. And Zhang Zhehan, if no one has told you this, this is a Hawaiian prayer known as Ho'oponopono. I say this to you and everyone encountering this. On behalf of the world, we love you, we're sorry, forgive us, thank you. I love you, I'm sorry, forgive me, thank you. In my fantasy novel, Sonny Preyer is my protagonist. He is a young man born looking completely male. Even a doctor wouldn't be able to tell any differently. But he is biologically predisposed to be female for the purpose of continuing peace for his race of people. For his race, he is like the embodiment of peace on earth, and it's his job to prolong his civilization by giving of his body in the form of an offspring. He has to bear a child. The catch is, he doesn't know this. Due to an attack on his life, his soul has been placed with normal human parents in an attempt to hide him from an eternal enemy. He thinks he's an average high school student until his 18th birthday, and his real-world needs for him to return to their dimension. Then everyone he knows conspires to force him to return home and live up to his purpose. He spends 3 books fighting that purpose. He identifies as a male and insists upon this to his core. I see him as a male. At first glance, his opinions about his body, having to hide being internally a female, feeling ashamed, his disgust with the idea of sex and pregnancy might all seem anti-female or anti-children, but as we read more deeply into his story and his journey, we come out on the other side realizing that he is pro-family, pro-life, pro-choice, and having a child might be the most empowering thing he could possibly do. 3 of 7 planned books have been written. What he has been afraid of this whole time is not being female, but being seen as weak, having little value to others, and certainly being reluctant to go very deep into the vulnerable places inside of himself. No one wants to be vulnerable, yet that's where we come out stronger. So he clings to the identity of a male for the entirety of the story, thinking he won't have to face those things, and half the battle is just getting him to admit that he's something more. This arc embodies the female journey to love herself to me, while providing an accurate representation of the BL genre. There is a love interest, an older man, but as with all things centering around his purpose, Sonny fights it with everything he's got. Before Sonny Preyer was published in print, it was online as a free-to-read web novel for many years. I could not afford a professional editor. Though a wonderful teacher from the UK helped me to pull it together, it still contains many technical errors and choices that I would do differently today, but it stands as the story that I came into this world to tell. It's the greatest inspired gift that I have to show for my life, mistakes and all. It would make a stunning translation into the BL anime world, so I'm honored to introduce it to you. That's all for now. Stay tuned for more BL topics. If you like my angle on BL, feel free to subscribe. There will be more. My Sonny Preyer books can be found on Amazon.com. Thank you.